Hey guys, we are short and sweet today. All you need is handout 26, which is only one page long. So this should be a bit of a shorter lecture, which I think you'll appreciate because the last couple have been a little longer than I intended. So let's go ahead and get rolling. We're going to start with just a little bit of review. So today we are continuing with the Neapolitan. And I know I said this last lecture, my fonts didn't import. I had already made this keynote, and quite frankly, I was too lazy to figure out how to import my music fonts onto it after I'd already made the slides. So here you go. Sorry about the janky flats. Review from Monday's lecture. Neapolitan, first inversion chromatic predominant built off of a lowered scale degree 2, which will kind of umbrella statement call flat 2. In terms of spelling and resolving, the most important things are that you double the base, which is scale degree 4, so do not double the root, double the base. Flat 2 will resolve to the leading tone. Now, if you remember, there's one instance where it won't go directly to the leading tone, and that's if you have a cadential dominant. So if we go to a cadential 6/4 first, flat 2 will actually step down to tonic, and then go to the leading tone in the 5 chord, and then move back up to tonic for the resolution. And our other big tendency tone is scale degree 6. Remember, in a minor key, 5 to 6 is one of our half step pairs, right? So scale degree 6 really wants to move down by half step to scale degree 5. So those are your two tendency tones in Neapolitan, flat 2 and scale degree 6. And just to reiterate, that's why we don't double either of those pitches, because they both very specifically want to go to two clear places, and if we double that, then we end up with parallel octaves, and it's just a whole big mess. All right, homework 18 is going to link up with this lecture. It's quote unquote due on Friday, April 17th. You guys know the drill by now. Do what you can, get it to me via email whenever suits your fancy. All right, so we are going to jump to the handout. So if you don't have it out already, go ahead and pull it up, and when we come back, we will get started. So the first thing I wanted to start with today was actually discussing the Neapolitan in the major mode context. Now, I mentioned during Monday's lecture, I keep wanting to say in class, I mentioned to my empty dining room on Monday that the Neapolitan was born in the minor mode, and it tends to live there largely. So I'm actually going to play just a little tiny progression for you to kind of illustrate why the Neapolitan isn't as cool in major keys. It just kind of doesn't sound as fun. But here we are in C minor. So I'm going to play you just a 1 Neapolitan 5/7-1 in C minor. So the Neapolitan has this really lovely kind of opening up of the sound. Now I'm going to switch us to C major and play the same progression. 1 Neapolitan 5/7 to 1. It just doesn't sound as cool. It's clearly chromatic, and chromatic harmonies are, ear catching. But because we're already kind of in a wash of major, that major triad doesn't stand out as nicely or as clearly, I think, as when we have them in a minor key. But no one cares what I think, they still happen. So I'd like us to just get the experience of part writing out a Neapolitan in a couple of major keys. The big thing you have to remember is that you have to do an extra alteration in a major key. So if you think about, let's talk B flat major, the key that I give you here. Find scale degree 2 in B flat. So scale degree 2 is C. So if you're going to lower it by half step, that's going to give you C flat. You're welcome. Now let's build a major triad off of C flat. So you're going to have C flat, up a major third gives you E flat, which is in the key, right? And then up a minor third is actually going to give you another chromatic pitch. So when you're writing a Neapolitan in major keys, you have to alter 2 notes. You have to lower scale degree 2, you also have to lower scale degree 6. Another way to think about it, and I know I harped on this when we were doing applied dominance, if you build the correct quality chord, you're never going to mess up. So find the root, which is C flat, and just build a major triad. And whatever notes you get are the notes you get, and alter them accordingly when you put them on the staff. So let's do this one together, and then I'm going to set you loose for the second one to do on your own. So here we are in B flat major. We've already spelled out our Neapolitan: C flat, E flat, G flat. Now, it's in first inversion, so we know who has to go in the bass, and it's E flat. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch an E flat into the bass voice. Remember who you double in a Neapolitan. You don't double the root, you double the bass, you double scale degree 4. So I'm going to just kind of arbitrarily put this in the alto. So follow along. If you want to put it somewhere different, I'm not going to know, and B, I'm not going to be mad about it. Okay, so we've got our E flats taken care of. Now we just need our 2 chromatic pitches. So I'm going to go ahead and put the C flat in the soprano. So there's our flat 2. And then I will put our G flat in the tenor. So again, making sure after you do all that work spelling the triad out in letter names under the Roman numeral, making sure that you transfer up all of those accidentals onto the staff itself. Okay, now let's remember our resolution rules and our tendency tones. So I'm just going to give myself an extra label here. Here's my flat 2 in the soprano, and here is my flat 6 in the tenor. Both of these pitches have very clear, non-negotiable tendencies. So we're going straight to a 5, no cadential dominant. So our flat 2 has to go to the leading tone. So it needs to go to scale degree 7. And we talked about this on Monday. It looks bad. Like when you look at that, you don't want to make that linear motion, C flat to A, the diminished third. It looks bad. It looks like it should be wrong. Just go with it. It's cool, I promise. All right, so flat 2 goes to the leading tone. Flat 6 goes to 5. The way I have this voiced, our tenor and bass are gonna join hands on scale degree 5 there. So double stem your F. And then all we have to worry about is our alto voice. Resist your urge to move the alto to scale degree 5. That is the only kind of part writing trap with these. If you've doubled appropriately, which means you double scale degree 4, the only real part writing trap is you're going to want to move 4 to 5 in both of those voices. Resist the urge, move her down, and that gives you a nice complete 5 chord. You don't have to raise a leading tone because we're in minor. Okay, so now that we walk through that together, put me on pause and work out the D major example. This one does go to a cadential dominant. So work this one out and then jump back on and we will compare notes. Okay, here you go. I did the same thing. I labeled my flat 6 and my flat 2. Again, your voicing might be different. The important thing is that your individual voices are moving the same way that mine are. So wherever your flat 2 is, it needs to move down to 1 for the cadential 6/4 and then down to 7 in the 5/5/3, etc. If you have 2 quarter notes for your scale degree 5s, that's cool, not a big deal. All right, so let's move on to our main topic for today. Now, we saw some of this in the lead that we listened to on Monday. There were 3 Neapolitans in that song. So if you need a refresher, you can just jump back and look at Handout 25 again. There were 3 Neapolitans. 2 of them went directly to the 5. And the third one took a pit stop at a C sharp fully diminished 7 chord. We were in G minor, so we had a Neapolitan that then stopped at C sharp fully diminished 7 before moving to the dominant. And we did a little analysis work and we came up with a label for that C sharp fully diminished 7 chord in that context, which was our 7 fully diminished 7 of 5. So when we're talking about Neapolitans, the most basic and most common way for them to resolve is just to go to the dominant, either a 5, a 5/7, or a cadential dominant. But we also do often see that momentary diversion to a fully diminished 7 of 5 before moving to 5. So let's take a look at that. I have two different iterations of it on your handout. One where we go directly 7, 7 to 5 to 5, and the other one where we go 7, 7 to 5 to cadential 6, 4 before moving to the 5. The first thing I want to kind of draw your attention to is the cool baseline that this creates. So we already know that the Neapolitan is built up from scale degree 4, right? Scale degree 4 is in the base. If we stop at a 7, 7 to 5 first, we get this really cool chromatic baseline that goes 4 to sharp 4 to 5. So if we think of, and we talked about this on Monday, the Neapolitan has a lot of tendency, right? So it's a great way to really usher you into the dominant, because 6 wants to go to 5 and flat 2 wants to go to 7 then to 1. So we get a lot of kind of draw towards the dominant with that harmony. When you put the 7, 7 to 5 in between, it just kind of increases the pull, right? Because that harmony, that fully diminished 7 harmony, has a lot of impetus towards its resolution. You've got 2 tritones that want to do something to resolve. You've got sharp 4 going to 5. So there's a lot going on that makes it want to really drive towards the dominant. The only thing I think that is tricky about this particular resolution, first off, we all know that resolving fully diminished 7 chords is a pain in the butt. You got a lot going on, right? And you can't forget all that just because we're adding a Neapolitan in front of it. So I still need the chordal 7s to go down. I still need, if you've got those diminished fifths in diminished fifth position, I still need them resolving in opposite directions. Otherwise, you're going to have parallel fifths. So all of that stuff still applies, right? So let's talk about what we're going to do in terms of resolving this particular Neapolitan to 7, 7. Take a look at your scale degree 6 here. Where does scale degree 6 want to go in a Neapolitan? In its resolution, it wants to go to 5. When you intercept, though, with this harmony, where does your scale degree 6 end up going? It actually goes up first. So I have this written in prose here. In these instances, scale degree 6 has to first move up to sharp 6 before going down to 5. We saw a similar resolution pattern in class a few weeks before we left. With a fully diminished 7 that sort of caused weird tendency patterns. Same thing here. So your 6 has to go up before it can go back down in these resolutions. Okay. Let's try and write one. And I'll play these for you in a second too, so you can kind of hear. I'll play them now. The only challenge with this is looking sideways while I play. So here's your one. I'm gonna revoice this because my hands are not that big. So there's your Neapolitan. There's your 7, 7 to 5. 5 to 1. I made this big fuss about parallel fifths, and there are definitely parallel fifths in my part writing. Sorry, I'll fix it and I'll repost a non-messed up one to Blackboard. So that's what it sounds like. Tons of tension that comes in right before you hit the dominant. Okay, can we try and write one now? I would actually like to just have you work this out on your own and come back. But let's talk really quick before I cut you loose as to what we're doing here. So back in minor keys, E minor. Let's make sure we're all on the same page for our Neapolitan. So find scale degree 2 and E minor in your head, and then lower it by half step. And again, the Roman numeral says flat 2. That's not always going to be a flat pitch. In this case, it is natural. So you're going to be building an F major triad in first inversion. Oh, sorry, there should be an arrow here. Yikes, this is a dumpster fire. Sorry. I'll fix that too. So let's spell our 7/7 of 5 by working backwards. Start with the 5 chord. So we're in E minor. The root of your 5 chord is going to be B. So it's 7/7 then is going to be built off of what pitch? And this is something that I've still been writing on some of your homework. So let's talk about that for a second. An applied 7 chord is built off of the leading tone of the resolution harmony. So you need to go down by half step and change the letter name. Think of it as scale degree 7 of that key. So if we're moving to B, your 7/7 is going to be built off of its leading tone, which is not B flat. It is A sharp. So you're going to build this harmony off of A sharp. And a good way to double check yourself too is look at what your bass line is going to be. We should have a chromatic ascending bass line with 4 sharp 4 5, not 4 flat 5 5. Flat 5 doesn't want to go to 5. It wants to go back down to 4. So make sure that you have this walking bass line of 4, sharp 4, and then 5. Okay. Let's spell this out before I completely actually shut up for real and let you go. Stack me minor thirds from your A sharp. So A sharp up a minor third, C sharp. C sharp up a minor third is E, and E up a minor third gives you G. Now I'm going to shut up and let you work this out. Let's all get the same starting voicing just so that it's easier for you to kind of check yourself when we finish up. So let's voice it this way. And now I will leave you be. So put me on pause, work this out, come back. We'll double check our answers, and then you will be on your way for the day. All right, so a couple annotations on here to help you out. Spelling the Neapolitan, with the voicing I gave you, this really, I think, is your only option. So some of you might have initially brought the tenor down to A. That does give you direct octaves against the bass, but also it walks you to a point where then you're stuck with the alto having to go to C, and there's no way to do that, I don't think, without breaking any spacing rules. So just by process of elimination, you kind of end up with this particular voicing for the Neapolitan. Okay, let's talk tendency tones first. So flat 2, I don't know if I mentioned this above, but when you have the 7/7 of 5, flat 2 is going to go to 1 first before it goes to 7, the same way if you had a cadential dominant. So flat 2 to 1 to 7. Because we're in the soprano, 7 does have to go to 1 for that final cadence. Now let's jump to the tenor voice, because that's where our scale degree 6 is. Like I mentioned, this is the weird part. This is the oddity. 6 has to first go up to sharp 6, which is a part of the 7/7 of 5, before it goes down to 5. Other than that, I think you should be okay. You might have voiced your terminal triad a little bit differently. The soprano is non-negotiable. 7 has to go to 1 because it's in an outer voice. But there are a couple options that you could have kind of finagled there. You would just have to be careful with spacing and parallels. But I think you could have gone this way. I think that's all right, yeah? Yeah, that could work too. So if that's what you have, that's fine. If you moved the bass down to this E, that's fine. Just be careful, again, with parallels. So if you move the bass down to this E, you could not move your alto to this E, because that will give you direct octaves. Because you've got this E going here, this F sharp, sorry, going here, and that B going there. So that's a perfect fit, moving in similar motion to an octave. So that's really the only, I think, trap for that particular resolution. But other than that, I think you should be okay. So I was thinking about this while I was sketching this out. By the time you get this handout, it will be fixed. So sorry, it's March 31st when I'm filming this, so I'm a couple weeks ahead, which is great in terms of catching my own mistakes. So by the time you get the handout, it'll be fixed. There will be an arrow down there with the part writing, and I will get rid of the parallel fifths. It's really embarrassing. So homework 18 is just part writing. So we're doing a little bit of kind of heavy lifting today to gear us up for some cool analysis on Friday. So that's all I've got for today. Homework 18 is up on Blackboard. Everything you need should be there. Thank you guys for your work. Stay safe, be well, and I will see you in a couple of days.